Hey guys, I'm Dorian and welcome to Massive in Depth number 11. Today we're going to be talking about the remaining center tabs in Massive: OSC, key tracking, filter tracking, voicing, routing, and global. Let's start with the OSC tab. On the left we have the glide controls. In equal mode, the glide takes the same amount of time no matter how large the interval, while in rate mode, the glide is longer for larger intervals. Below this we have the time knob, which controls the rate of glide. To the right we have the pitch bend depth controls. Set the up and down range to whatever number of semitones you want, up to 24 or down to 24. Next we have the oscillator phase control sliders. By default, all the oscillators run freely, but you can enable restart via gate so that oscillators restart at a particular phase point every time you trigger a note. Dragging the sliders allows you to change where the phase of the oscillator begins. Next is the vibrato controls. The rate controls the speed of vibrato, and the depth controls the amount of pitch modulation. The mono toggle at the top controls what? Okay, yeah. The mono toggle at the top forces all the voices to share the same vibrato LFO. When this is disabled and multiple voices are used with vibrato, strong detuning can be heard even when voice detuning is set to 0. Let's see that. But if I enable mono, so yeah, when you click mono, they all follow the same LFO and the detuning disappears. So instead you hear a strong reinforced vibrato after toggling. Finally, you have the internal envelope, which allows you to modulate the parameters inside the OSC. Or not the OSC, of OSC. And once again, internal envelopes only work in the section they're from. So in OSC, it only works in OSC. LFOs, it only works in LFOs. Next, we have the pitch key tracking tab. This tab controls how each oscillator's pitch responds to different MIDI notes. Traditionally, each note only played its own note, but in Massive, you can change how the keyboard works, and you can make every key the same note if you wish. The controls for this are on the right side, and by default the oscillators are set to linear. You can set any of the 3 wavetable oscillators plus the modulation oscillator to a custom user shape by clicking the toggle, or you can turn key tracking off entirely and just control the pitch using the pitch sliders on each oscillator. So you can see linear by default. When you're in linear, you can't draw anything. Toggle to user, and now you can. So if we flatten everything out, everything sounds the same across the keyboard. And if we click off, it's perfectly the same, and we can only change it with pitch. Next we have the filter tracking tab. This tab controls how the cutoff of each filter responds to MIDI notes. By default, both filters are set to their own linear curves. You can set both filters to the user to one of 2 user curves, so they can either share one or have different ones. And you can turn the filter tracking off. Next we have the voicing tab, which controls the voicing parameters of the synth. On the left we have the main voicing controls. Max controls the max number of voices to be used, and unisono controls the number of voices assigned to each note. Polyphony mode allows you to play more than one note at a time so that your notes can sustain, or you can play a chord. Mono mode allows you to play one note at a time, and mono rotate does as well. The manual describes the difference between the two, but it's a little difficult to understand. They claim mono rotate is supposed to prevent clicking, but I think mono actually has less clicking if you listen to me play these notes. So in mono rotate. So mono rotate actually seems to pop more. So I don't know. Maybe they just mixed up what they were saying. Next we have the trigger modes. So in the always trigger mode, the envelopes always engage every time you press a key. In legato mode, they engage. They don't engage unless you have the key. You've released the previous key. If you haven't released the previous key, it will just, I mean, not exactly slide, but it will just engage that note without triggering the envelopes again. Legato Triller does the same thing, except for it allows you to jump back to the original note when you're done. So I can show you here. So that's always legato. Another thing about legato, or I guess, I don't know, I guess these are kind of the same thing. So if I go to legato triller, I hit a note, I hold another note, I let go, and it slides back. With legato, you actually have to re-engage a note. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So try this out. Be on legato, hit a note, hit the next note, and then release the note you just hit, and you're just going to go to silence. If you do legato triller, it's going to jump between the notes. Just kind of like hammer on and pull off on a guitar. Next, we have the unisono spread. You turn on pitch cutoff, and this controls the amount of detuning per voice, or of the voices, based on the number of unison voices you have over here. You can control the maximum amount of detuning up to an octave, and you can modulate here. Here you have wavetable position, so that each voice takes a different portion of the wavetable position knob. And then panning does a stereo field effect. Next we go to the routing page. We've already discussed the routing page. It's how we started Massive in Depth. So if you want to know about this and you haven't watched that, go watch Massive in Depth number 2. Next we have the global page. You have a knit patch, which goes to some initialized step. You have global tune. You have preset BPM, which is currently set to external sync so that it's stuck to the host BPM. You can turn this off if you want, but I mean, in almost all cases, you're going to want to keep this on. Randomizes the parameters that you have selected here. Copy. Okay, we'll do this right here. Randomize up to 30%, just the OSC section. Filter. So you have to make sure you have these blocks connected, otherwise it's not going to work. You have your quality settings. And then you can copy paste something. I'm not sure. Maybe it's for different patches. Anyways, there's a couple things I skipped. Keep OSC pitch, so that's so you don't change the pitch of the oscillators. There's this stop hold envelope. I don't know what that does. And I also didn't cover what centered first chord was. I pretty much only ever use centered, but I'm gonna probably check what that is and then add something at the end of this video. All right,